Well, hello there, you lucky, lucky, lucky people, because once more it's time for the Magic Morning Wood, your bi-weekly dose of essential cinema chat with me, Frederick Bean Counter Davis, and him over there.
Ron.
Excellent.
Are you Fred now?
I always have been.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that. Is Clive just like your made up name?
Not paying attention, clearly, Ron.
Your
So,
your screen literally says Clive, so is
part of the facade.
I
But
see.
I'm
Okay.
slowly creeping out from behind.
And what's the purpose of the facade?
You'll find out.
I see. Okay.
Mark
Right.
my
Okay.
words. So, anyway, enough of your nonsense, Ron, and let's talk some films. And
Films. Yes, let's
the
do it.
algorithm machine is it's well oiled for the new year, and it has been um, the maintenance has been maintained. Can you maintain maintenance? Yeah, why not?
Maintain maintenance and yeah, sure.
Yeah. And it's running, it's purring around nicely. So the last film we spoke of was Wavelength, right?
Right.
So we're both responding to that, and in different ways, it seems. So I went via, so Wavelength starred or co-starred Sherry Curry, formerly of The
Is
Rock.
that the French version?
Is
Shitty Cootie.
Her name is Sherry, and isn't it Curry?
I think it's just Shuri Curry.
Curry. I was thinking, isn't it like Madame Curie?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Ah,
I think it's just curry, like you
Curry?
eat curry. Yeah.
Spelled differently than that.
I yeah, I think that's how they pronounce it though.
Okay. Anyway, Cherie
Yeah.
Curie was in Wavelength,
Shitty goody.
and she was
Ah oui, Madame Shitty goody.
before becoming an actress, was of course a member of the rock band The Runaways with Joan Jett.
Runaways.
And so I chose the biopic The Runaways. Hey.
Eh,
American film from 2009. Uh, and I chose this because this has been something that's been on my radar for a little while. I kind of, sometimes there's a film that comes along and you're like, I'm kind of interested, but not so much that you seek it out immediately, right?
right.
Which is, but also you suspect that's probably not going to be. But it's that kind of noise around it,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, right.
And I've learned long time ago not to bring any really good films on here because it's pearls before swine. So this is a perfect opportunity to
Right.
talk about, because this is a film I might not get around to,
Uh,
but this is a good excuse to get to it, and I probably have a more good time talking about it with you than just watching it by myself.
sure. Right.
So it's custom built for the Magic Morning Wood experience. Had you seen this
Okay.
before, by the way?
Nope, I had not.
Okay. So yeah, so biopic of the Runaways. For those who don't know, the Runaways were all-girl proto-punk rock band of LA mid-70s, right? Like we said, the two big Joan Jett came from the Runaways, and Cherie Currie was the lead singer, and as this film kind of shows us, was the face of the group, especially in some territories like Japan. They're big in Japan. Everyone's big in Japan, way big in Japan.
Big in Japan.
And yeah, so it's and yes, how they were kind of discovered by Kim Fowley and their relationship with all of it. And basically, it's the kind of expected trajectory of a rock band becoming big and then being torn apart by drugs and inner conflict and
And
all
egos and
yeah, all the
finances
stuff
and
that basically happens in all rock biopics, right? Because
yeah, sure.
I'm still waiting for the rock biopic where everyone gets on famously and drinks tea and just has a nice
Well,
time.
that would be the Rolling Stones biopic, right?
I think they had their ups and downs, and one of them died in a pool, right? So
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah. Or the what is it? The yeah, I know. Yeah. So I'm sure there's other ones. Yeah.
is
You
it
know, they
like
were supposed to just released like new music this year. They have a new album.
they did? I don't know. I
Yeah.
for me, they
It's like
haven't been relevant since like 1971 or something, right?
well, yeah, but like I was just like over the winter break, I was like having to listen to like I haven't heard new music in probably 20 years. It's because I don't listen to the radio. We live in
Right.
Japan and we don't hear it. So I found like a YouTube channel which was like, oh, best new songs from 2023. I was like, oh, I'll give it a listen to see what kind of songs are popular these days. And Rolling Stones had a song on there, and I was like, what? How do they even have? It was like, even if they do have new music, how are they even still popular? Right? So
I'm guessing this best of was very highly contentious.
yeah, I'm sure it was subjective. I'm sure it's like to do with radio play and stuff like that. But I just thought that I
What
just
else
didn't
was on
realize.
there, just out of interest?
Couldn't tell you. Couldn't
I'm
remember. A
guessing
lot of
Taylor Swift.
mostly bands I'd never heard of before. So
Taylor Swift would have been on there, I assume.
no, it was. I specifically chose like I like rock music, so it was like a rock best rock songs of the.
Does she not count as rock music?
I don't think so. I think she's pop. I think so.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her myself, but okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, fascinating insight. Wow, look at us. Relevant. Yeah.
Yeah. This was completely relevant to talking about
Yes.
the Runaways.
Pop
Yeah. So.
music. The old man who went to listen to new music and ended up
Yeah. Yes.
listening to the Rolling Stones.
Okay, back to the Runaways.
Yes. So well, that's it. Plot wise, I suppose. I mean, we'll get into ins and outs and specifics and why we think this is good or not or whatever. But yeah. So well, first off, then let's set our table. Were you from the beginning? Were you a fan of the Runaways, the band?
To be honest, as I was watching this, I realized that I actually am quite unfamiliar with the Runaways. Being even though I'm a rock fan and even a classic rock fan, Runaways has sort of always been a little off my radar. Even like their big songs, like the one that the big one, the Cherry Bomb, the big one they have in this movie. I went to go listen to it before the like I did some like Wikipedia research, and I was like, oh, Cherry Bomb, okay, that sounds like a familiar song. And I went to go listen to it, and I think I've never even heard it before. So it was
Okay.
yeah. So I don't think I'm quite familiar with Joan Jett and the Black Hearts and stuff like that, but I think preceding that, I mean, I know of the Runaways, and it was one of those bands I thought that I knew, but I guess I didn't. So because I didn't really know any of the music for this.
Yeah, well, Joan Jett, as we know from an old Christmas show, are notorious for totally ripping off the theme tune for Ginger Dead Man.
For the Ginger Dead Man.
Do you remember that? The Ginger Dead Man theme tune was basically note for note bad reputation.
Right. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
actually, because I hadn't heard, the first time I'd heard bad reputation for years and years and years, and then with Ginger Dead Man in the back of my brain, I was like, fuck, wow, they really just fucking ripped that straight up, right?
So that's actually why I guess when we were watching Wavelength that I didn't really know who Sherry Kuri was,
right,
because I don't really have much of a background with the Runaways. So
yeah, because yes, I suppose.
Although to be honest, I might go have a listen to them more right now. So because
okay, you liked what you heard.
Yeah, I like that kind of music in general. So
right. No, I'm with you. I knew who they were. I knew Cherry. But I'm not a particularly big fan. But similar to Joan Jett stuff with the Black Hearts for me, like it's not something I choose to listen to. But it doesn't irritate me. It's not annoying.
Yeah, you don't turn it off. You're like, oh yeah, okay, yeah. So
yeah, it's perfectly fine. And I suppose they're I suppose they're relevant in the context of being who they were at that time more than I really dig the music. If you see,
right.
There are some bands like that are like you kind of appreciate. Like the big one for me, I mean, this is a band I do like more than the Runaways, but in terms of like, you can't deny their importance, and
Mm.
some songs when they come on, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, I don't mind listening to that, and they don't actively irritate me in any way, shape, or form. Yet I do not own one record by or ever listen to the Beatles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I was wondering how long it to get the Beatles. Okay, right, yeah.
yeah. That's the big one for me. Is
Right.
because
Yeah.
even the Rolling Stones, I actually do actively listen to the the first 5-6 years of their existence or whatever.
Sure.
But I don't think I own a Beatles album. I don't think, but I
Right.
don't dislike them or anything like that.
Mm.
Yeah. So with that in mind, then I suppose we're both reacting to this pretty much in and of itself.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah.
What did you make of it, Clive?
Well, I should mention, I suppose, Kristen Stewart plays Joan Jett,
Oh, yeah.
and
Right.
it's Dakota Fanning as Cherie Currie, and of course,
Michael,
Michael Shannon as
yeah, taking giant bites out of the scenery.
as Kim Fowley.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to tell because on the one hand, I can totally see it probably being
Maybe
a
close to what he really
yeah,
was.
yeah,
I think I get the impression he was kind of a larger than life kind of guy,
yeah.
but at the same time, certainly he, yeah,
You're
definitely
not quite sure where Michael
he leaned into it.
Kim begins, right?
Yeah, right. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
But Michael Shannon is always good value, and it reminded me
yeah.
I have yet to watch, which I should watch because it's such an insanely awesome bit of casting. The film where he plays Elvis, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Which movie is that?
Elvis meets Nixon.
Okay,
Uh,
I
so
don't think
yeah, I can't believe I've taken this long to get around. I mean, Michael Shannon as Elvis. I mean, yeah, oh, yes, please. I definitely want to see that.
right.
Yes. So hmm. Yes, what did I make of the Runaways? Yeah. It's a tricky one because there was things about it I I quite appreciate there were bits and pieces of it that were slightly edgier than I expected
Mm.
for a pretty big and plus as well you have it's not her fault, but you put Kristen Stewart in a film and you immediately think it's gonna be because of
About
Twilight.
vampires?
Well, no, but I think because of Twilight, I think she's been maybe slightly wrongly tarred with that kind of starlet brush, whereas actually
Right.
she's been in quite a lot of quite challenging,
Yeah.
interesting films, right?
Sure.
So I think that just, but it is it is a big when it came out, it was a relatively big film and it played in theaters and all that. So
Mhm.
I suppose on the one hand, it's a little bit less hagiographic and less flattering than I thought it would be. There's like a scene, for instance, where Joan Jett pisses on the band that doesn't let them do their sound checks guitar, right?
Yeah, according to IMDb, or the commentary, apparently
Rush.
that was Rush. Yeah, which
Yeah.
makes me feel really sad that my Canadian brothers would
Yes.
be like that.
I dislike Rush, so I'm quite happy to
Okay.
stories too. But yeah, so in some ways it was a little bit I mean Cherie Curie's character doesn't come out of it. It's not too much of a whitewash, and neither does Joan Jett. And we'll get to the Kim Fowley stuff because I want to talk about that separately. But so on the one hand, it was a little bit grittier than I kind of expected in a good way.
Mm.
But then I suppose in another way, it didn't really go far enough either. Like it pulled back a little. So it was kind of a bit between two stools for me. It was neither it was neither fish nor fowl. It was an easy watch. I didn't mind watching it. And again, like we said, the rock biopic kind of falls into this kind of trap anyway, so you can't really fault it for things. All of these rock biopics kind of follow a similar trajectory. So it's not surprising necessarily, but yeah, it did leave me. I can't say I was satisfied by the film's end, and I would imagine the more of a Runaways. My guess is the more of a Runaways fan you are, you're probably going to be less satisfied. So as someone who's not a fan and doesn't have that much skin in the game, I think I probably let it off more lightly than a Runaways obsessive was. My guess would be. How did you get on with it, Ron, broadly?
Well, I thought, I mean, again, my limited knowledge of the band and the time and the actual people in it,
Mm.
I was trying to do a little bit of research on them as I was watching it to get up to speed about the band and kind of what they went through and were there. And I thought, from my understanding of it, it seemed like it was quite well cast. I thought the
Yes.
casting was quite well. Kristen Stewart, as you said, Kristen Stewart is kind of, not only is she famous for Twilight, but she's also famous for being quite kind of unexpressive, right? She's got like the resting bitch face, I think is what kind of she generally get. And I think she was kind of perfect as Joan Jett, from my understanding of what Joan Jett is and her kind of reputation, her bad reputation.
What a gingerbread
Right.
rip-off, man. Ginger dead pan rip-off that is.
I don't know. I just thought Kristen Stewart kind of nailed that kind of character. I
It
thought
was
she
good
was.
casting, I think.
I thought she. I thought she was. I thought it was pretty inspired, and I thought Dakota Fanning, who, as you yourself have said, is jailbait. She was quite well cast as Cherie
Well, I was
Curry.
talking about Ellie Fanning, but
Oh, okay, well,
it works. It works.
Yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought she also was quite good, and Michael Shannon really leaned into it, and I thought he was really fun to watch, and and he kind of played up the kind of the wild, crazy kind of guy aspect of it. So I thought it was all well cast. But as a movie, I thought it was there was a bit of a mess. I thought it was. I mean, I don't really have much to many chips in the Runaways camp. I'm not like it needs to be, but I just sort of I just thought it didn't really tell me their story very comprehensively or coherently, really. I thought it was really jumpy around with the timeline and with skipping it. And I mean, I was just sort of doing like a basic kind of timeline on Wikipedia, and it seemed like there was like big, huge chunks that were being left out that didn't
Right.
really that were kind of seemed like they were kind of important for understanding other stuff. And then at the same time, I read like another like someone in like the director saying that it was not meant to be about the band, but more about their relationship. But I don't really think it did much of that either. Like I thought it was, I didn't really come away from the movie understanding the Runaways anymore, nor understanding their relationship anymore. And so
Yeah.
I think on both fronts, I think it kind of failed overall. And I think also, I mean, it's called the Runaways, but I don't even think I know any of the names of any of the other girls in the band. Like it was,
pretty much.
I thought I did them pretty dirty. I thought, so I think in general, it was not that good of a biopic. You know what I mean?
It's Joan and Cherie and Kim all the way.
Joan and Cherie, right? So I mean, if that's the case, don't call it the Runaways. Call it something else, or call it Joan and Cherie or something.
Now we should mention that it is officially based on Cherie's memoir, right? And
right.
And there's another documentary, End Play, is it called? I think, which is
End Play was the documentary. Yeah,
that's Joan Jett.
Edge Play.
Sorry, yeah, that's her take on it. And then apparently the other members of the Runaways didn't even sign off on telling the story as well. So, and we'll get a little bit into that again when we get to the Kim Fowley thing. But yes, you're quite right, because the one thing they kind of soft pedal is that there's this kind of idea that there's hints that Joan Jett is gay, right, or at least bisexual,
right?
And
that they had like a sexual relationship, and it was sort of implied, and maybe like they did a little bit of this, but it was like, well, did they or didn't they? Like it was never really clear, and I was like, well, and I didn't really, I don't know, I didn't really understand what the relationship was most of the time. It was really vague.
They go to that unrequited love thing, and like at the end,
I don't know.
She phones into the spoilers. She phones into the station. I think you're supposed to get this feeling that but yeah, it hasn't earned that, as you would say.
Yeah, I didn't earn exactly. Yeah, I didn't earn it, and so I was like, well, what am I supposed to get from this scene? Because it should feel like a some sort of a resolution or some sort of like an epilogue, but I didn't really feel the story all the way along. So I don't know. I just thought the movie itself was a bit of a mess. It didn't it didn't do what it needed to do to get me there. You know what I mean? So,
right.
yeah.
So well, the other elephant in the room as well, I suppose, and how it would be so different if this film was made today is they really kind of, I mean, it's in there a little bit. So Kim Fowley says things like, it's not about women's lib, it's about women's libido, right? And he's obviously bringing a lot of his own baggage, right? Like, and he's saying all this stuff about how the audience, they just want, either a woman in the kitchen or down on her knees and all this stuff. And he's like preparing them for but it obviously, it's like, it's all filtered through him, right? When he says,
his misogyny, right?
yeah, and he assumes it's worldwide, right? Or everyone's like,
yeah.
Right? So it's in there, and obviously he is a very kind of to a certain, he's predatory and also he's abusive, right?
Yeah, like, I mean, by all accounts, he was like raping them the whole time and stuff, right? So
yeah, this is the thing. They obviously they didn't go far enough. Now I think if they'd have to address it properly, right? So yeah,
right, yeah.
Far from what I understand, it went far beyond. And also the interesting thing about that as well, because his partner in crime apparently was, the mayor of Sunset Strip, the DJ Rodney Bingingheimer, right?
Right, yeah.
Who you see and there's someone plays him, and it's, he's totally innocuous kind of guy, and you're thinking, yeah, made this film now, you also would have to bring up Rodney Bingingheimer's equally kind of tarnished reputation in terms of that.
Yeah, what was that the way he that DJ was really, it was like very like wait, what is going on with this?
That is what he sounded
like. Is that what he was really like?
Yeah,
because I don't know that person.
Yeah.
And so it was a really strong choice for that.
I mean, it's a good impersonation, and I think that's why his sexual misconduct that was a bit more surprising to some people who weren't in the know, because Kim Fowley's not exactly hiding the possibility of that, right? Whereas Rodney Bingheimer had it, under this kind of veil of it, very kind of nebbish, toast,
awkward weird guy,
kind of fan guy. So that's the other thing is, I mean, I don't know how much of that I would have been aware of if I'd have seen this film when it was new.
Right.
But obviously people in the know knew, right?
Right.
Jackie Fuchs, right, I think, is the member of the Runaways who's come out and charged Kim Fowley with, full on rape allegations, and even claiming that Cherie and Joan Jett were witnesses, and they claim they didn't see it and all that. So there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that they didn't address, but I'm slightly reticent about blaming the film for that, just because of when it did come out, right? So I'm just we might. But
I mean, 2010 was not that long ago.
No, I mean, but it has been an epoch in we have crossed the Rubicon in I mean, just 3-4 years ago feel so different. You watch some films from 3-4 years and you're like, oh yeah, you wouldn't do that way now, because when these things happen, they tend to happen like that almost. Right. Again, obviously, some people who would have known, they would have, but in general audiences probably wouldn't have all stood up and said, hey, that Kim Fowley was actually a rapist,
Yeah, exactly. So that being said, I mean, there's basically 3 stories that can be told of this group, which is the biopic, just the rise and fall of the group. Yeah. There's their relationship between Joan and Cherie, and there's also like the abuse going on and stuff. And I don't think it did any of those things. So
yes, that's what you mean.
So at the end of it, like, what am I taking away from this? I think they tried to do a little bit of everything, but in the end, it ended up failing because they didn't get any one thing strong enough that what's going on, right? So
should say a written directed by Floria Sigismondi, who, as far as I can tell, comes out of the world of music videos, which you can kind of tell, and also directed some TV as well. But I don't know if she's maybe
she's a photographer apparently.
Oh, okay, but she has also directed a lot of music videos as well. So it's an I'm glad I watched it, and my instincts were right that it probably wasn't going to be that good. But I'm still glad I kind of had a look at it. Very pleased to see as well in the cast, very, very briefly, Brendan Sexton III of Pecker fame, of Pecker's best friend fame.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He was in it right at the very beginning as Cherie's sister, played by Riley Keough, who's a lot more famous now. Uh, she plays her younger sister, right, in the film.
I think she's the older sister, isn't she? Isn't Cherie the younger sister?
Could be because there's another sister as well in real life that they never mention, right?
They
Apparently,
didn't even mention, yeah. But I thought Cherie was the younger sister. I thought.
it could be again, kind of testament to the film not really explaining.
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah.
If you are looking for a much better film about an all-girl rock band, slightly later on the punk era, ladies and gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains, starring Diane Lane and Ray Winston, a young Ray Winston, and I think his first kind of non-British film, first time he went to America. Ladies and gentlemen, the Fabulous Stains is a very good film that I would recommend, much more than I would recommend this. In fact, yeah, actually, I don't think I'd recommend this in any way, shape, or form, really. I mean, like I said, it's
it wasn't a terrible watch. It was
not
a
awful.
fine hour and a half. It was a quick, whatever it was,
Yeah,
hour 40 or
awful.
hour 45. But it
And
was,
I
yeah,
appreciate that
it
it
was
wasn't a
just not.
whitewash, but
It was
no,
just like, oh yeah, so what? Yeah, like what's the point? You know what I mean?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if I'm
I feel like there is a good story here.
Yeah, but then
I
again,
think
I'm
there,
not sure if I want to see another.
but I wouldn't want to. Yeah, I think it's too late to watch. But I think that it could have been a really interesting story, really interesting movie if they had
Right.
pick a lane. You know what I mean? So, but
Maybe maybe the dock edge play might be a bit better if you want to know.
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my choice this time. And how did you react to Wavelength, and what direction did you go? You actually went
So
kind of a fairly obscure route, I have to admit. Like you
yeah, pretty. Yeah.
just get away with this one, I think, right?
Hey, it's a loose connection. I can go wherever I want. It's like, it has people in it. There you go. There's a
There we
connection.
go. Yes, it's on film.
It's a film. It's a movie. It's shot on
Sprocket holes
celluloid.
used.
Yeah, I don't know. I just I took away from Wavelength those kids who were we talked about being kind of inexplicably creepy just because they were kind of like shaved heads, and like even though they were not meant to be malicious.
Well, you went with creepy. I went with more otherworldly, but you found them more creepy.
But there was something about it that was kind of creepy about them, I thought.
Right. Yeah. It's
but I'm interested. So I thought I'm going to do a movie about some creepy kids. So I'm just going to say what other kind of movies are there about kids that are creepy? And so I just looked at some lists of creepy kids, and again using this as you said, huh?
High School Musical.
Yeah. High School Musical. That's creepy. But as you said, using this podcast or whatever this is called now, as a way to tick the boxes of the movies that you kind of been meaning to get around to seeing, but haven't really gone there. So I thought, I have never seen The Brood, David Cronenberg's The Brood. So I thought, why not? It's known for its creepy kids. So yeah, why not? I'll put it in there. So so I chose The Brood, 1979, written directed by David Cronenberg. Starring Oliver Reed and Samantha Eggar and Art Hindle. I'm assuming you've seen this before.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So yeah. It was the first one for me. So basic kind of rundown is kind of a interesting storyline. So it's like so Oliver Reed plays this sort of how do you say, like a new kind of psychologist. He's got this almost like cult, like a psychology cult, basically.
Yeah, he's a bit of an R.D. Lang kind of figure, a little bit, isn't he?
I don't know who that is, but
He was a famous Scottish psychologist around this time whose theory that well, basically, insanity was the sane reaction to an insane world, that kind of
right.
thing, and
Okay.
screen
Sure.
therapy and stuff like that.
Right.
He was very in vogue, probably around this time, actually, or
Mm,
a little bit before, maybe. But that's
right.
what I thought of anyway.
Okay.
There's probably someone else as well,
I'm not familiar with
The Gestalt guy and all that, and I forget his name,
it.
but
Right.
yeah, and of course Freud's in there, right? Because Cronenberg's
Sure.
obsessed with Freud, so
Right. Right. Yeah. So anyway, so it's he's like a cult leader, but basically he's a psychologist who has this new way called psychoplasmics.
psychoplasm.
And
Yeah.
psychoplasmics is it's basically kind of like a psychodrama, which is something that I actually studied, which is sort of like psychology through role play. And it's like you play my dad and I'll play me and then I'll yell at you because I hate you, the kind of thing, right? So but in this case it's so intense that it actually makes physical ailments come out on your body, like rashes
Yes.
and sores and stuff. So there's some sort of physical manifestation of your
His,
psychology that comes out through this.
his best-selling book is The Shape of Rage, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yes,
his
I
and
didn't
his
know that.
institute is the Soma Free Institute of Psychoplasmics, which is such a perfect Cronenbergian name for an institute. I've always
Right.
thought.
And yeah, and so he's got certain patients. He's got like patients and he's got a whole program for where they're only allowed to see certain family members or have so much contact with the outside world. And so our hero, I guess, and with a question mark, our Indel
Protagonist, let's say.
protagonist, I guess, his wife is in under Dr. Hal Raglan's care, which is his name, and but he's not allowed to see her, and because she's got some sort of hysteria, and part of her program is that she can see their daughter but not him. Um, and yeah, and so he's sort of wants to see her and all this stuff, and then some of these strange murders start happening with these random children, and at first you don't see them, but then you start to see them more, and they've got these kind of like real kind of like deformed face things
Alex.
and mallets and killing people, like the grandmother and things like that, and then the kindergarten teacher for the daughter and stuff like that, and they're killing around him. And
Big
yeah, and
spoilers coming up, by the way,
big
for anyone
spoilers,
who's
yeah, big
not seen it.
spoilers, yeah, which is yeah. I actually didn't see this coming, but turns out that the children are the physical manifestation of her rage and psychosis, which she's kind of created these sort of mutant children that go off and kill people that she's angry at,
Yeah,
right?
she
So
has like
anyone
an
that she's
exo womb, right? We see it.
yeah, and so then at the end it actually she doesn't like an external womb where she grows them and then they hatch,
Yeah,
and so she's got this sort of like whole bunk of these like mutant children that go off and do her bidding to kill, not even like consciously, but she like whenever she talks about and is angry at anyone, they go
yeah.
off and they kill that person, right?
She's a threat
So
to her because she still kind of wants. So we should also mention as well that not only is she under Oliver Reed's care, but she's also, it's kind of hinted that she's kind of having a relationship with him as well, right? So
yeah, that it's sort of like yeah, there's
the Art Hindle character is not only concerned for her well-being, he's also somewhat cuckolded as well, right? So
yes, of course, yeah,
so it makes him a kind of, it's interesting actually as well, when the mother is killed and the father turns up and he's grieving and stuff and all that. Like he didn't expect to grieve and he stays at the house and he suddenly starts drinking too much. It reminded me, like, Cronenberg sometimes has this reputation of being like cold and clinical or something. But I mean, but the characters in this film are actually, they're very human and they're very flawed, right? Like I didn't find
yeah,
this film cold in any way. In fact, it's all about emotion and
emotion, yeah,
yeah, David Cronenberg made it at a time in his life when he was going through divorce and a custody battle, and kind of
right.
it was his way of kind of dealing with it.
Sublimating,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
so it's an interesting example for people who, claim that he's, cold and clinical all the time, I think.
right. So so how did you make out with the movie this time versus your previous times?
Well, it's an interesting one. Well, you're the first time watcher. I would really want to know what you made of this.
You always make me go first.
Well, no, it's because I don't want to pollute any because they're fresh thoughts for you.
Oh, I've already got my opinion. I'm already ready
Right.
to say.
Well,
So yeah.
tell us what it is then.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
So yeah, I would say I quite enjoyed this movie. I really liked it. I was surprised. I thought it was. I didn't know where it was going, or I thought they were just sort of like these. I didn't know who the kids were or why they were there, or if it was some sort of like a supernatural thing. But yeah, I didn't expect them to be a physical manifestation of her of her rage. And yeah, and when it got to the sort of the climax, it didn't pull the punches, right? So I mean, like that when she pulls it up and she's got like that external like
Mhm.
your uterus and stuff. It was yeah, very uh I guess I could say I wouldn't say shocking necessarily, but it definitely surprised me. I didn't think it was going there. I had no preconceived notions or ideas going in, or I wouldn't spoil myself, and I was full surprised. I thought it was quite well done. I thought Oliver Reed is always good fun to watch. I think he has exactly the right amount of gravitas and that he needs and like manliness that is
He is
needed for
a
that role.
manly man. He
He's
is.
a very manly guy.
If you're gonna be cuckolded,
Yeah,
you're gonna be cuckolded by Oliver Reed.
Oliver Reed. Yeah,
Yeah.
you can't do worse than that. Yeah. So, um, yeah, and yeah, I thought, of course, the kids, the makeup could have used some work. Of course, it is mid 70s, whatever, but they just
Right.
look like they have paper mache on their faces. But I
Yeah,
think
but
it
it's
was
more of an abstract idea than it is a
yeah,
monster.
I guess.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah. So, but I think they really, it had, the scene in the kindergarten where they like come in and they just like kill the,
Mm.
kindergarten teacher in front of like, and I am a kindergarten teacher. So it was sort of like, it really like, it was like, oh my gosh, like it really kind of struck me as being very
Don't
visceral.
don't you dare leave me for another YouTubing partner, or my ex-home will send little things to come and kill you in your kindergarten.
Yeah. So yeah, it was like, that scene especially was very visceral for me, being a kindergarten teacher, but,
I like the added touch at the end where he uses like a piece of kids' artwork to
yeah,
cover
yeah, he
something
puts over
about
yeah.
pumpkin seeds or something. I thought that was quite.
Covers your face with the
Yeah.
kids' art. Yeah. Yeah, I did like that too. But yeah, so I thought it was good fun. I also see that they're doing a reboot of it. So
Oh, they are, they?
they're
Okay, it's
remaking it.
interesting.
I just yeah, I looked it up, looks like it. So I was thinking that as I was watching, I was like, this really should be rebooted. I think this would be like a great, like, 2020s. I think it deserves and would be really benefit from like a higher budget and like a modern sensibility. I think it might be really good actually. So
Yeah, I mean, I
it's in
don't think
development now.
necessarily. I don't think it's necessarily you need a reboot to replace it, but I certainly
No,
I'd like to see a nowadays take on similar themes, right? Because
I feel like they have something to say about it that would be worth watching now, right? So yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah. Because there's a lot about watching this again that was interesting for me as well. Because I've been a big fan of this film for a long time, and the film I've always kind of twinned it with that which we if we hadn't already done it would definitely have been my response to it was Possession.
oh right,
Because Possession, again, a film that kind of abstracted a very difficult divorce, also
right,
has a woman's id externalizing itself into some kind of monster, right, and all of that.
right.
I've always kind of, but this time, it's interesting. I kind of, they're actually, apart from those few surface, they're very, very different films, actually. They're not necessarily as close together as I once thought they were. What just from the beginning, for me, it's weird seeing old David Cronenberg films on the Criterion. It's like, oh yeah,
Oh,
when did that happen? But yeah, I suppose Multiple Maniacs is on fucking Criterion, right? So
right.
yeah, and yeah, great, they should be. But I'm so used to them, David Cronenberg not coming from that place in a way.
Uh,
Um, and yeah, I mean, this time watch, I still thought all the things. I agree with you. I still think it's a really good film, and like I said, it's an interesting kind of example of maybe Cronenberg being a little bit more you know, a bit more emotional depth that you might some of his critics charging for. Also, I mean, this time I figured, and if they were to do a remake, this is what would be interesting for me is, so the manifestation of things physically, it's a little on the nose and heavy-handed. Like, for example, the very last thing you see is them driving away and the daughter who's been traumatized and she's already showing signs, and you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. You're carrying the trauma forward. Yeah, you
Right,
don't
yeah.
necessarily have to show the lesions on her skin at the end, right? But then I was thinking about it. Actually, it's a little heavy-handed now, but no one else was doing this in 1979.
Yeah, that's
Lee
true. That's
Cronenberg,
true.
at least in North American cinema, no one was doing it. So it's unfair to ding it for that, I think. But it
Sure,
is interesting. It has maybe dated ever so slightly,
Mm.
but not to ruin its reputation or to ruin your enjoyment of it. Because again, it also works as a really good thriller, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
First time David Cronenberg worked with the composer Howard Shore as well, right? Who would become a regular. It's interesting as well. It kind of so it comes the way people always say, oh, it's the film. It's the one between Rabid and Scanners, right? It's the one
Right.
between Rabid and Scanners, and but they always
So he followed up this movie with Scanners, right?
yeah, but the one they always forget about is Fast Company, which is the one between Rabid and Brood, and that's like this racing car film that he makes, starring John Saxon, right? And again, people forget about it because it's not a typical Cronenberg film. It's actually a pretty good film for what it is, and people always assume it's like a hack job, you know, or it's not a real Cronenberg film. But Cronenberg loves fast cars. He even wrote a book called Fast Cars.
And he did Crash too, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, of course,
You can see why people don't think of it as Cronenberg, but it is kind of part of the puzzle, oddly enough. Fast Company, so it's Rabid, Fast Company, Brood, Scanners, and when we talked about Scanners before, and I understand why. I understand why Scanners is the one that spawned a franchise, and I get it, and the exploding heads and everything. But as we discussed, Scanners is actually maybe one of his lesser films, really, just in terms of kind of intellectual rigor, right, and following something through to its inevitable conclusion. And you know, it doesn't quite work. I think this works better as an intellectual exercise and as a thriller. It's a different film, guys. It doesn't have the I suppose it does have I suppose it does have science fiction kind of elements, but yeah, it's a much more interesting film than the Scanners. And again, it's not that Scanners, you know, oh well, it's the big kind of popular film, and because after Scanners he makes The Dead Zone, which is the most mainstream film he's ever made, and that's a great fucking film. So it's not just, you know, watering down, you know, whatever. So, you know, Brood, yeah, no, it was, I'm glad you picked it because I hadn't seen it for a long time. It was quite nice to come back to it. And yeah, it's a good one. It's a definitely one that stands, right?
Yeah, and I think it's it's definitely unique. I mean, you can't say there's a lot of movies like this, right? So definitely not at this time, right? So I think he, you know, Cronenberg is who he is because of movies like this, right? So
yeah. Well, even now, I mean, apart from the on-the-nose-ness of it, there's still not that many people taking films with this kind of concept through to its inevitable conclusion, right? Because that's the thing with Cronenberg. That's the great thing about Cronenberg is, and I suppose I understand why people say he's cold and clinical, whatever, because they don't quite understand. Like, it's not that. It's more a kind of intellectual rigor, right? Like, he's the guy who says, you know, well, you know, look at cancer from cancer's point of view, like
right.
From the disease's point of view, it's great. It's spreading and woo,
you know, it's living.
So he's that guy, right? He's that guy, and I am quite fascinated. Actually, he's one of the few people as well to make me kind of interested in Freud and Freudian concept. Of course, he made A Dangerous Method, right? Many years later, he eventually got around to actually making a film of Freud and Jung, and Freud turns up in I think rabid someone's reading Freud, and obviously there's some Freudian stuff behind this. And I think he's one of the few people who makes, because Freud's, I have not read Freud closely. Have you?
Not super closely, but I have a psych degree, so I did do a lot on Freud.
Okay.
So,
So correct me if I'm wrong. I'm under the assumption that, of course, Freud massively important, kind of totally game changing, but
yeah, father of modern psychoanalysis,
yes,
right?
but has somewhat been discredited over the years in terms of
Mostly, yeah, pretty much.
or a bit like a strange example, but when we were talking about how Kim Fowley's worldview was filtered through his own kind of
Right.
foibles, Freud has and kind of fallen out of favor a little bit, right? But
well, I mean, it was also Victorian, so it was like
yeah,
it was all like the the result of culture and the time, right, too, as well, right, where everything was wearing, it was, no one can even show their ankle, and it was like so like
right.
so that kind of stuff. So it was the sex and violence was part of the repression of that time, right? So
Right. But it's very tempting. I think it's very tempting for modern people when you hear about Freud and then you hear about the discrediting, whatever. It's very tempting for us to, well, I don't need to go back to the source. I can read the people who've come after him and who've modified it, and I actually don't have to. But Cronenberg is one of those few people who seems to like no. There's still great value there. You just have to go back and sift through, and he's one of the few people who kind of validates it and makes me think, oh, actually, yeah, probably I do actually need to go back to the source, as opposed to just the people who have, standing on the shoulders of giants and all that. So
or just reacting to him.
And this is obviously one of his kind of, it's in that territory as well. So yeah, it's one of the, I don't know, it's one of the Cronenberg films. I feel like it's not one of his more celebrated ones.
No.
But neither is it like, oh, the forgotten David Cronenberg film either. So it kind of invariably falls between two stools. So I think a lot of horror fans, because they might kind of not have quite got around to it yet, like you, and they should, right? Because it
should absolutely, yeah.
Just as a straight horror film, and of course you have all these other interesting layers to discuss as well.
Yeah. So I mean, it was also, I mean, as I said, they had a lot of layers for me too. I mean, first of all, as a kindergarten teacher, but also as someone with a psych degree and someone who studied specifically psychodrama, which is basically what they're doing. At the beginning, I had to rewatch the first scene when he's doing like this sort of like intense therapy session with this guy where he's pretending to be his father, and I didn't even know it was therapy. I thought they were doing a scene work, because they're on a stage with lighting and people in the audience watching them, and I thought it was like an acting school basically, right? So, and then it wasn't until later I was like, wait a second, he's a psychologist, and then I had to go back and rewatch the movie with a totally different mindset.
Right, but I think that strikes me as being probably fairly kind of accurate. I think that was part of it.
Right, you're not supposed to know that it's supposed to be more theatrical than therapeutic, I guess, right at the beginning, right? So
I suppose the only thing was left me with some, not questions exactly, but I was just kind of pondering certain things. So number one, and again, it's Cronenberg, so he's not necessarily, he might just be presenting things and not, he's interested in looking at something and he's not necessarily interested in coming down hard and fast, with a theory or, is this good or bad or whatever. But I was just thinking, what do you think? Is the Soma Free Institute of Psychoplasmics a positive or a negative? I mean, he seems to have fucked up a lot of former kind of patients along the way, right? But but you don't, other than her, and obviously she's an extreme example of these,
right?
But then you're wondering, well, so if she's not, because I wasn't quite sure like what her problem was anyway. I understand.
No, yeah. I got the impression that I thought that he was sort of like maybe at some points I thought that he was supposed to be sort of like a shyster who was just wanted to have an affair with her, so he kind of had convinced her that she had these problems and had to stay with him, and was using it to basically like have his way with her you know, he was almost like a you know, a cult leader, like with his
Yeah,
wife and kind of thing, right?
but
So,
he comes good,
but
right? At the end, he's not a bad.
yeah, yeah, he's
Yeah,
not all bad, and then he's obviously is doing something that has, you know, I mean, these like sores that come with these physical manifestations. There's obviously something to what he's doing.
yeah,
It's never explained, like if it's supernatural or if it's just sort of like a he knows exactly how to do it. Like he's just sort of like this new thing. But of course, it's
yeah.
not a realistic at all. But you're
No, no,
supposed
no.
to get that he is supposed to have something, but maybe going about it in the wrong
Yeah,
way, or yeah, I'm
because
not sure. Yeah, so
he's guarding her like a lab experiment in a way, right? Because he
right,
knows it's
yeah,
working, but I'm
right,
not sure if he thinks that the way it's working is good, or because
but or
on the
not.
one hand, you're
Yeah,
like, oh, that's terrible that there's little fellas
yeah,
around with mallets, but on the other
yeah.
hand, if you repress it, like, what's that gonna do to her?
Sure. Right. Yeah.
Plus,
And but
I
I also don't get the impression that he knows that's happening. Does he?
no, no, I don't
No.
think so. I think that's the thing.
No.
It's an experiment out of control, and he's obviously certain he's megalomaniacal to a certain extent, right? But it's
Right.
interesting in the film he is kind of presented as leaving this collateral damage behind in his wake, but also he's not an out and out villain.
Bad guy. Yeah. Yeah.
Again,
So I wasn't quite sure if what Cronenberg was trying to say about psychology or psychoanalysis or this kind of thing. And if
right,
he was just trying to say that there's benefit, it wasn't all good. It wasn't all bad either. Like I assume
yeah,
he's
yeah.
got like a
Well, I don't know if
mixed
you've seen a dangerous
relationship with it.
method. Um,
Which one, sir?
a dangerous
Dangerous
method.
Method. I
Yeah,
was just going to ask you, have you seen it?
yeah. No, it's a very good. And again, that's again a very true story that is based on whether I forget her name. Is it Selena or something? The character that what's it?
Sabrina.
Yes, that what's her name played?
Spielrein.
Yes, what's the actress's name?
Kira Knightley.
Yeah, Keira Knightley, the character she plays, and under both Jung and Freud. Oddly enough, this is a similar theme to the film that's getting attention now. Poor Things, right, has a lot of
Mm,
this kind of um,
right.
similar thematics going on in it. Yeah, there's a lot in that about how much were they actually helping and how much were they just kind of abusing her to their own ends, and how much did they know they were doing that, and how much was it
Uh,
just also an invariable part of something new, right? Something new comes along, there is going to be, it doesn't matter how hard you try, there's going to be collateral damage. But and if you just totally, if the wheels come off and you don't give a shit and you're megalomaniacal, and then so yeah. And again, Cronenberg's like, raising all these questions, and he's not necessarily interested in answering them or putting them to rest. It's just
uh,
it's kind of like we said, that's what's good about it. It works as a straight up horror film, but at the same time there's all these other things floating about.
yeah. Elements that you can kind
Yeah,
of delve into. Yeah. So.
the only other one I was like, again, I'm not quite sure. So he strangles his wife to death, right?
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
assume he does. That's kind of an especially when you think about that this is a film that he used to deal with
Yeah.
in real life.
Work through
Yeah,
his anger with the
yeah.
divorce. Yeah.
And I
I'm sure that
admire,
wasn't I'm sure that wasn't an accident. Yeah. So.
yeah, I admire his. I mean, I don't know anything about David Cronenberg's wife at the time, but I'm guessing David Cronenberg was probably married to a very smart woman who could totally divorce herself from the
Yeah.
reality in the film, and understood that he was, I don't know, but I'm assuming they probably get on fine now, and she didn't necessarily resent this film because yeah. But
Possibly. Yeah.
yeah, but you do have to wonder, like, again, I don't think it is a message or anything because Cronenberg doesn't really do that, but it is kind of an interesting thing to ponder, like, oh wow, so the only way out was to strangle his wife to death. It just raises question because there's all the other things about custody and stuff as well, right? So
Right.
so that I thought that was that was something I'd never picked up on before, but this time I thought, well, that's interesting. He strangled his own wife to death, traumatizing his own little girl who sees all this happen and all the. So yeah, no, it's one of the few of these 70s films that I would welcome a remake or reinterpretation, because it
Mm,
would be quite fascinating to see someone playing around.
In the right hands, of course,
Oh
not
yeah,
just
yeah. No, don't fucking
yeah,
give it to McG or something like that. Like, you know.
G or McG.
Yeah, no, obviously it would have to be someone who would, bring something interesting to the table.
Something new to the table, right? Of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Or
Yeah.
even, I mean, I wouldn't. I suspect it's not him, but it would be really interesting to see David Cronenberg like do it again. Like, I can see him coming back and having
Right.
distance, and like that would be kind of interesting as well. But no, let's let some fresh blood in, right?
Right. Sure.
Or see it more from the Samantha Egger character's point of view, or
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
all sorts
Yeah.
of different interesting ways, or the child's point of view,
Just point of view.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
all kind of interesting ways you could go with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. There we go. Yeah, no,
Cool.
Brood
Right.
holds up really well.
Yeah. The Brood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many more of the? Because you through this project, you've gone through. We've done a few of the early.
This is my
Now.
third Cronenberg, I guess, right? Yeah,
You did
I did
Shivers by yourself.
Shivers
Yeah,
by myself, and then I did Scanners.
we
And
did
this
that.
one.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you've yet to see Rabbit?
Yeah, I've done Rabid. Yeah. So yeah, and yeah, almost certainly my next one I'm gonna choose another Cronenberg. So that'll be number 4. I haven't decided which one
Okay,
yet, though.
well, not to plant any seeds.
But I was thinking maybe a Dangerous Method
Okay.
or Rabid
The other one I was
or
thinking in terms of from his early period, a film that might be really interesting. I haven't revisited for a long time, and if you've not seen it, it is definitely a gap. It's Videodrome.
Videodrome, right? Okay, yeah.
So there's another possibility.
Yeah. I'm also thinking of his new one. Have you seen the new one, the Crimes of the Future?
Yes, we can't do that because I've already done that with Robin on day release.
I don't care. I
Well,
do it here.
You'll be
What
doing
did
that.
you think of it?
You'll be doing that show by yourself then.
What did you think of it?
I really liked it. It was smart. I think my main takeaway from it was kind of like it was a bit oddly enough. Me and Nick recently did the Murakami Haruki book, Killing Commendatore, which I referred to as kind of like greatest hits of Murakami, but also moving things on a little bit. And I felt Crimes of the Future was very much like Cronenberg looking back over his career and do it like it's so Cronenbergian. It's almost it's self-parodic. I think Cronenberg's kind of not making fun of himself, but he's very playful in that film. And it's a really interesting film. It's a really good film. Plus, on a more crass level, Léa Seydoux gets her tits out.
Right. Okay.
Something for everyone. But no, it is a very, very good film. Cronenberg's definitely met his people talk about Scorsese, De Niro, or whatever. I think Cronenberg Mortensen that's a really interesting string of movies. Viggo Mortensen and
all this Viggo stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
All those Viggo movies, yeah. The History of Violence and the Eastern, what is it called?
Eastern and Dangerous Method as well.
Eastern Promises, yeah.
Yeah, they're all really interesting. They work really well together. Clearly, you can tell that they kind of get each like a lot of this. I think a lot of the stuff in Crimes of the Future, if there was a different actor, I don't think they would get the balance right between kind of the balance between taking it seriously and also like, God, this is so me. This is ridiculous. Like there's some stuff in Crimes of the Future are just so Cronenberg is ridiculous. Like I really admire that he went there. And the fact that Viggo Mortensen understands that and pulls it off. And Léa Seydoux as well, actually. Nudity aside, she's excellent. And she's always good. I'm a big fan of her, aside from fancying the pants off her as well. She's fucking good actress, I think.
Léa Seydoux.
Yeah. No, you should watch Crimes of the Future. Just don't talk to me about it. Well, you can talk to me about it.
Talk to me about it.
But yeah, don't get away. Talk to the hand.
Okay.
Do people still do that? Talk to the hand?
I don't think so. No. Not anymore.
No. Yeah. Anyway, looking.
There we go.
Yeah. See what you dredge up for next time, and what I dredge up, and we'll be back for more magic in the wood, the morning wood. That's the magic morning wood. See you around.
Right.
Bye.